I think that we would see the ball handed off to Malik Willis, and he would be the Titans quarterback starting from that point on. And the Tennessee Titans may have well upgraded themselves at the quarterback position. What's up, Draft Network fans? This is Keith Sanchez here to talk to you about the Tennessee Titans 2022 draft class. The Tennessee Titans had a fairly quiet offseason, right? They just restructured a couple contracts, had a couple small signings, and then the draft came. And they traded their all-pro wide receiver, A.J. Brown. It was a must that the Tennessee Titans front office nailed this pick and find Ryan Tannehill another number one pick. So they went with wide receiver from Arkansas, TREYLON BURKS. TREYLON BURKS, from a play style, size, height, weight, measurement standpoint, he's very similar to A.J. Brown. But we all know that similarities, they don't always necessarily translate to the NFL. And that Ryan Tannehill is in a very crucial point in his NFL career, right? Because we know that he had the disappointing playoff loss to the Cincinnati Bengals last year. So pairing TREYLON BURKS with Ryan Tannehill, I think is a combination that is going to have to kind of prove itself. But TREYLON BURKS is a high upside football player. So for me, I thought this was a solid pick. I didn't necessarily love it, but we'll see how everything turns out this upcoming season. In the second round, the Tennessee Titans drafted Auburn cornerback Roger McCreary. This has been a position that the Titans have consistently addressed over the years, right? Drafting Christian Fulton and Caleb Farley, but they haven't really seen their return on investment that they would like, especially with where they selected these guys. So they went again into the cornerback pool and drafted Roger McCreary. McCreary, as a football player, is a very scrappy guy, and if you want to know just the type of caliber football player you're getting, cut on the Alabama film from this past year. He covered Jameson Williams and John Mechie, two wide receivers that are very different stylistically, but very effective and explosive football players. So I'm expecting Roger McCreary this year to really fill a position, probably be a day one starter. And if Christian Fulton and Caleb Farley cannot figure out their injury situations, this is a guy that will be a starter, and I'm expecting him to be a high-level productive football player for the Tennessee Titans. With their first pick in the third round, the Tennessee Titans decided to draft the offensive line position and drafted offensive tackle from Ohio State, Nicholas Petit-Frere. This draft, to me, means that they expect to move somebody along that offensive line. And if I had to peg one guy, it would be Dillon Radunz. I'm expecting them to move Dillon Radunz to the interior offensive line position and move Petit-Frere to that right tackle position. And I think that will give them a formidable front. We know that the Tennessee Titans are trying to run the football next year, and I think that Petit-Frere excels at that. He's a good guy that can climb to that second level and really make contact with second level defenders. So looking at Nicholas Petit-Frere film and projecting him to the Tennessee Titans roster, I think that this is a day one starter and a key contributor if the Titans really want to be able to make another deep playoff run. With their second pick in the third round, the Tennessee Titans made one of the splash picks of the NFL draft. They drafted quarterback from Liberty, Malik Willis. I believe this pick was in direct response to Ryan Tannehill's poor play in the playoff game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Malik Willis is a high tools guy and has high traits. So I'm expecting this guy to come into training camp and really push Ryan Tannehill for that starting position, but I don't think he will ultimately get it. But if the Tennessee Titans don't perform as well as they would like to into the season, I think that we will see the ball handed off to Malik Willis, and he will be the Titans quarterback starting from that point on. And the Tennessee Titans may have well upgraded themselves at the quarterback position. With their first pick in the fourth round, the Tennessee Titans went after running back from Michigan, HASSAN Haskins. Haskins is a downhill thumper that if you look at this Tennessee Titans offense, his skill set fits perfectly. We know that Derrick Henry was hurt for a good bit of the season last year, and the Tennessee Titans took a pretty much of a running back by approach. And I think that they were trying to really address that position, get some younger legs in there with HASSAN Haskins, and really have a formidable 1-2 punch. While this isn't a thunder and lightning type combination, I think this would be a thunder and even more thunder type combination. And HASSAN Haskins is a guy that will play as a pretty good backup to Derrick Henry. So moving into next year, I'm expecting HASSAN Haskins to have that backup role behind all-pro running back Derrick Henry. But if Derrick Henry goes down, I think that the head coaching staff feels really comfortable about having HASSAN Haskins in that starting role and being able to hand the ball off to him 25 to 30 times a game. With their second pick in the fourth round, the Tennessee Titans drafted Maryland tight end CHIGOZIEM OKONKWO. Okonkwo is a high-level athlete that I immediately thought of tight end Jonnu Smith when I watched him. And I think that the Tennessee Titans had similar thoughts, right? So I think that they drafted CHIGOZIEM Okonkwo to really replace that role that Jonnu Smith left when he went to the Patriots. And I think this will help quarterback Ryan Tannehill out because he will have that dynamic tight end that he once had. So I'm expecting CHIGOZIEM Okonkwo to see the field early. Not sure if he will be a starter, but I think he will be a key contributor in this offense and really make some dynamic plays down the field. In the 5th round, the Titans went after wide receiver from UCLA, Kyle Phillips. Kyle Phillips is a highly productive football player that he's not a great athlete, but this is a guy that just manages to get open. And I think that that's something that this front office and coaching staff identified that Ryan Tannehill needs. He needs that slot guy that just can find a way to get open, and that way Ryan Tannehill can get the football to him quickly. So I think if anything else didn't say this, I think that the Tennessee Titans came into this draft realizing that, you know what, we need to address the offensive side of the football. And you know what, we're going to put it on Ryan Tannehill because we're going to give you all the offensive weapons that you may need to be successful. And now it's on you to be successful. So Kyle Phillips, highly productive football player, not a great athlete. I'm expecting him to see the field sparingly until he really understands this playbook. And then he's a guy that has high upside because we've seen in the past that these slot wide receivers, once they really understand the game and understand spacing and really get that chemistry and cohesiveness with the quarterback, they can be very productive football players. And that's what I'm expecting from Kyle Phillips. In the 6th round, the Tennessee Titans went with defensive back from Tennessee, Theo Jackson. Theo Jackson is another very productive guy that shows to have positional versatility. And we all know the way the NFL is schemed now, it's all about being in nickel and dime packages. And so you bring on a guy like Theo Jackson that can play both corner and nickel and also safety. You have a versatile defender. I'm fully expecting Theo Jackson to also be a special teams contributor. This is not a guy that I have pegged as a day one starter. But like I said, in certain sub packages, I think Theo Jackson will be a key contributor for the Tennessee Titans. And we all know that their injury history is well documented. So this is a team that needs depth along the defensive back. With their last pick in the 2022 NFL draft, the Titans went after Ole Miss linebacker Chance Campbell. Chance Campbell was another highly productive football player at Ole Miss. He led the team with 109 tackles. He had fumble recoveries. He had sacks. He had interceptions. This guy just flat out did it all. And I'm expecting him to bring some of that playmaking ability to the Titans. This is the type of player that I felt that head coach Mike Vrabel would definitely appreciate. And when you talk about that tough tenacity and just the overall environment that Mike Vrabel brought to this team, I think this is another football player that fits into that. He's another tough, gritty football player. So Chance Campbell, he's somewhat limited athletically, but he's one of those guys that you still bet on because you know that his motor runs hot and it runs high that you say, you know what, sideline to sideline, this guy playing linebacker, I'm going to bet on him to just ultimately make plays. So I think early on, he may be buried on the depth chart because like I said, athletically, he's not superior to anyone, but I think this is a guy that just fights his way through the weeds, and eventually he will become a starter for the Tennessee Titans, whether it's year 2 or year 3. So, Draft Network fans, that's my recap for the Tennessee Titans. Remember to leave a comment and let me know what you guys think about the Tennessee Titans 2022 draft class.